Hello. I'd like to welcome everyone to the August 16th, 2022 meeting of the Milford Planning and Zoning Board. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Thank you. Meg, if you would please call the roll.
Ms. Austin.
Present.
Mr. Castagnoli.
Here.
Mr. Hirsch. It's not yet arrived. Mr. Cater.
Present.
Mr. Collegian.
Present.
Mr. Moore.
Present.
Mr. Mortimer.
Present.
Mr. Sadi.
Present.
Mr. Zaharidis.
Present.
And Chairman Cush.
I am here. First order of business is a public hearing closed by September 6, 2022, vote by November 9, 2022. Proposed regulation change 22-6, petition of Kevin Cresadian Esquire for a change to Article 5, Article 11, Sections 521, 525, 536A, 536B to allow modernization of existing conforming and legal non-conforming billboards abutting the I-95 corridor and the conversion to electric digital billboard signs. And this was continued from 8/2/2022. And David, if you would please just recap what we've done and where we are.
Okay, at the last meeting, you closed the public hearing, and you requested that staff come up with a motion that would change the language of the proposed regulation to include making it a special permit. So before you, you have a proposed motion that does that, and everything that's in yellow is new language. One of the other changes that was made, if you recall, in the initial submission, which you also have a copy of, there was an alternative measuring distance that went into detail that came from the Outdoor Advertising Association of America, and we're just referring to that in the regulation versus spelling out the full text of what those numbers are. But all of the changes, also in those changes, by the way, is the removal of the CDD1 zone from the regulation. So the change would only affect properties that are in the LI and ID zone in the corridor as described by the applicant.
Is there any questions from the board, primarily to probably to David, on what the difference is between the original proposed reg change and what we have in front of us?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Dave, there was somebody from Gloria Commons. Would Gloria Commons be excluded?
Yeah, they were in the CDD1 zone, so now that billboard would not be eligible for a change.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Hirsch.
Mr. Salkis, as I understand this new modification, essentially we're limiting these signs to 2 zones, whereas before the applicant wanted 3 zones. Is that correct?
Correct. And the net change in the number of billboards is 1, because there was only 1 billboard in the CDD1 zone, for I believe a total of 5 billboards that could be could take advantage of this regulation change.
And therefore those 5 billboards will be limited to the LI zone and the ID zone, correct?
Correct.
And David, Could you walk us through the difference in what it would take to have a billboard approved under the regulation change we have in front of us as compared to the language that was first presented by the applicant?
Sure. In the original language, if you had a billboard that met the criteria as outlined in the proposal, the applicant could just come in and get a zoning permit over the counter and a building permit, versus making them a special permit, which would come to you for a special permit and site plan review. To the extent that site plan reviews are covered in this, you'll see language in here that our site plans in Section 7 are set up like a checklist, and basically items 1 through 14 of that checklist would apply to the billboards.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Etan?
So as we discussed at the last meeting, there was concern amongst members of the board about opening the door to electronic billboards in other areas of Milford. My question is, as the current state of the application before us, there will be only 5 electronic billboards. But what's to stop another developer from coming in and putting billboards along that abut the non-access highway line of I-95 on side roads in the town of Milford, rather than just high above the highway?
Well, what would stop that would be the regulation before you, because it's very specific about where they can be located. Again, anybody can come to you at any time and petition you for a regulation change for anything. So that being said, I mean, you guys are the ultimate arbiter of whether or not there's going to be a regulation change that would affect these billboards or other billboards in the future.
But it says in the regulation that these electronic billboards would be erected as a ground sign and located on real property. As it stands, these 5 signs will be visible from the highway and will be above the highway. What about signs located on the road? Would those be built in the LI and ID zone?
Okay, let's walk through the regulation.
Right.
In the actual regulation as proposed, which is in front of you, under item number 4, under 5.3.6A, which is electronic digital billboard signs, it's talking about billboards. Number 4, having the illuminated display facing the I-95 corridor at an angle of 90 degrees or less at the point nearest to the sign structure. Have the illuminated display located no more than 200 feet from the I-95 corridor. So it's basically the ones you see on the highway.
So so in other words, other than what's before us, the paper here now, it's, in your opinion, it's very limited to geographic scope, the way it's written.
The way it's written, and I believe there were materials distributed to the board from the last public hearing that was very specific about the billboards that are affected by this.
Yeah, I would add it's not opinion, it's actual fact of what is in our ordinance of where these are located. So it's not opinion-based.
Right, I mean, these are standards of where it's located, so you either meet the standard or you don't meet the standard.
Anyone else? Carl?
Maybe we can't answer this evening, but in regards to the special permit, last meeting, they mentioned about not placing all 6 billboards, but possibly only 3 to 4, and not the 5 that's generated this evening.
I wouldn't take with a grain of salt when someone makes a statement like that, because it doesn't matter. The regulations are the regulations. If they want to put up one billboard, if they want to put up 6 billboards, if they come in with an application that conforms to the regulations, they can have those billboards.
And that's based off special permit, and that's for us to grant that, correct?
Yeah, under the proposed motion requested by the board, the regulation as proposed would be changed to a special permit with site plan review.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Sadi?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you to Mr. Sulkus. One of the documents that we were provided with today, which I believe we'd had in the past, is a document dated March 25th of 2022 entitled Proposed Changes to the Zoning Laws 521, 536, 11-2. The document appears to be 4 pages in length. And I've gone through it twice. Would you point out where on that document it indicates the special permit? I don't see that in the point is, if we're voting on this is what we're going to vote on. We're not voting on a special permit. I don't see it in the document.
That's correct. You won't see it in that document because that's the document that the applicant submitted to you. The board can approve, deny, or modify an application. And at the last meeting, this board directed staff to come up with a motion to modify the language of the applicant that would include a special permit and site plan review. And you'll see that language, Mr. Sadi, on the motion sheet in yellow. All of those changes are highlighted in yellow on the motion sheet.
We just point out, because I was given that just this morning, or actually just now, where it says special permit. That's the 536A.
Yes, section 5.3.6A, you'll see 2 changes in that section. You'll see the removal of the CDD1, and it now lists just the LI and ID, and you will see the verbiage, subject to all the provisions and limitations of these regulations, the board shall allow through special permit and site plan approval, subject to section 7.1.21 through section 7.1.214. Electronic digital billboards in the LI and ID zoning districts, et cetera, et cetera.
And I see that, but can you point out where in our regulations, what concerned me about this is that it says the board shall allow through special permit, so it means we have no discretion once the special permit is sought. I don't remember seeing that in any other of our regulations regarding special permits.
You can change, again, you can modify the language. If you want to use the word may, you can put in the word may. It's up to you. This is your language.
It's not my language, it's somebody else's that was created, put in front of me. Let's be very clear on this.
Yeah.
Do we have anywhere else in our regulations regarding a special permit where the mandatory shall is used?
I would have to look at our regulations. I'd have to look them up.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I move to approve with the following modifications, the petition of Kevin Crusading Esquire for a change to sections 5.2.1, 5.2.5, 5.3.6.A, 5.3.6.B, and 11.2 to allow modernization of existing conforming and legal non-conforming billboards abutting the I-95 corridor and conversion to electronic digital billboard signs. 6 affirmative actions required to pass. Effective date, 9/5/22.
And so that would be with the proposed
And-
modifications?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And would you
with-
want to add the word may to substitute the word shall?
Yes, I would like to substitute the word may, and do you want me to read through all these, or?
David, can we just use this document as a reference, or does that need to be fully read?
It wouldn't hurt to fully read it.
Okay, no problem.
And just to let you know, I just looked at the regulations, and Mr. Sadi is correct. We do use the word may for special permits.
Okay. Proposed modifications, section 5.2.5, subsection 1, shall be modified to read, illumination produced by an electronic digital billboard sign with a face size not to exceed 14 by 48 feet, shall not exceed 0.3 foot candles of illumination over ambient light levels as measured by a foot candle meter from 250 feet perpendicular to the sign face as certified by a professional engineer, or alternately measured as prescribed by the April 2017 Outdoor Advertising Association of America explanation of OAAA Recommended Brightness Guidelines Appendix. Proposed subsection 2 and 3 is removed. Section 5.3.6A shall be modified to read, electronic digital billboard signs in LI and ID zoning districts. Subject to all other provisions and limitations of these regulations, the board shall allow... I'm sorry.
Yep, that's good.
Thank you. The board may allow, through special permit and site plan approval subject to section 7.1.2.1 through section 7.1.2.14, electronic digital billboard signs in LI and ID zoning districts, subject to the following additional conditions and safeguards. Electronic digital billboards shall be erected as a ground sign and located on real property in the LI and ID zoning districts, which abuts the non-access highway line of the I-95 road system, or an access ramp or right-of-way with respect thereto, hereinafter collectively called the I-95 corridor. Section 7.1.2.14 shall be modified to read, electronic digital billboard signs in LI and ID zoning districts, subject to the following additional conditions and safeguards. Electronic digital billboards shall be erected as a ground sign and located on real property in the LI and ID zoning districts, which abuts the non-access highway line of the I-95 road system, or an access ramp or right-of-way, with respect thereto, hereinafter collectively called the I-95 corridor. Section 11.2, other terms shall be modified to read, must automatically adjust the brightness to not exceed 0.3 foot candles above ambient light conditions, measured at 250 feet, or must meet the foot candle level prescribed for alternately measured distance, as prescribed in section 5.2.5. Light produced by an electronic digital billboard sign with a face size of 14 by 48 feet shall not exceed 0.3 foot candles over ambient light levels measured at 250 feet, or must meet the foot candle level prescribed for alternately measured distance, as prescribed in section 5.2.5. All other language as proposed by the applicant remains the same.
Thank you, well done. We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm still opposed to this. I still don't think these are safe. The whole premise is to grab somebody's attention while they're going 70 miles an hour, and I just can't see that, letting this go forward.
Understood. Any other questions or comments, Mr. Sadi?
I don't think we had Mr. Solkis's administrative summary. At least the first 2 pages would be helpful for us. Those show up in documents, but I think there was some changes based on the proposed motion.
The administrative summary that I gave you previously is the best I can do, because I can't write a new report since the public hearing is closed, because then the public and the board would not have the opportunity to question my report. So you would have to take the motion and the new information in the motion and whatever applies or doesn't apply to the report that I previously gave you.
And through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Sulkus, what you're indicating is your administrative summary of July 18, 2022 can be relied upon us on our purpose of voting.
It's informational, and you have the motion in front of you. If you have any further questions you want to ask me, I'd be glad to answer them. But it's another piece of information for you to consider as you may or want to or not.
I have no further questions of Mr. Sulkus at this point, but if I could have a chance to be heard, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
please.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Attorney Crusaden, for the presentation, the work that you and your company have done, the company that's representing this. On my record, I think the record would show I've been at, I think, every single meeting. If not, I might have missed one, but at all the votes, I was present. I have to agree with the gentleman to my right that I cannot agree to this particular proposal. I don't find any changes from what we have really seen in the past, except for the discussion that was presented by your applicant to take away one of the billboards and change it from three zones to just two. We had a substantial number of private citizens from the city of Milford came forward, and I suggest that my memory is every one of them was opposed to it. We have citizens that came from nearby the area and from all over the city of Milford. I have a concern that I've indicated previously, the safety issue. I don't suggest there's been any new studies that would help us face that. And there is one thing that I did want to mention, and I didn't hear my board member to the right mention, but I am concerned that if we do pass this regulation change, it could lead to other parts of the city having billboards on them because we've already set the standard. So for those reasons, I would be opposing this. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak on the issue?
Well, I do appreciate the exclusion of the Gloria Commons billboard. I think this is substantially the same proposal that has been voted down a couple times already, and I'm inclined to also vote against it.
Thank you. Anecdotally, I've spent a real lot of my life on highways, driving around, and I find an electronic billboard actually less distracting. If I see a billboard, I may have to look 2 or 3 times to see, what it says if somehow piques an interest. But an electronic billboard, it seems to just explain itself instantly to me. I think any issue with safety or more accidents, I think, is at best anecdotal. There could be more accidents in front of an electronic billboard, but you don't know if there was a pothole there. So honestly, I think that that there is not real evidence that it's dangerous. I do think this present motion does give this board and future boards discretion on site plan and special permit, so it has to be voted on. And I do not think the precedent would be set because a new applicant potentially and a new zone change with new language would be in front of either this board or future boards for their consideration. So they could do that now, whether we approve this or deny it. A future board could receive an application for language change. So our action today will not, in my mind, predict or alter the future. So I will be supporting this. Is there any further questions or comments from the board? Etan.
Mr. Chairman, I echo your sentiment. I don't think that an electronic billboard is any more dangerous than a cell phone. in terms of a distraction. And if you're going to ban electronic billboards because they're distracting, maybe we should ban cell phones in people's cars. So I don't buy that argument. In terms of the precedent setting, I have to respectfully disagree with you. I think once you open the door to electronic billboards in somewhere on a highway, you are going to open the door to electronic billboards all through this city. It's just going to happen. It's just like the common law, like you learn in law school. Once you set a rule and once you set a new precedent, what comes next, it just naturally flows from it. So we're going to see billboards, electronic billboards in downtown Milford. You're going to see them near the beach. You're going to see them in the north part of the town. So I'm not sure how I'm going to vote on this right now, but I'm telling you, you're going to see applicants at least once a year coming in, trying to put up new signs all over this town.
Thank you. Carl?
Yeah, I have to agree with Chairman Quish in regards to electronic billboards, and I will be voting for this regulation change. My sentiment is more a fact that the safety issue, and I don't see that there is a safety issue based off electronic billboards. We see a lot of issues such as you go down to Vegas, for instance, you see lights, billboards everywhere. They're still driving. You wouldn't charge those accounts onto the billboard signs that are causing those accidents or anything like that. So, like we said, the cell phone issue is more of an issue for me. If we can curb those things, I think our energy should be focused on other things on the highway, speeding and other things more so than billboards at this time. So I'll be voting for this. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Exhausted.
I agree with Carl and the chairman on the whole distracted driving being more geared towards cell phones, navigation systems in cars. Also, too, like the city of Milford puts up signs right at headquarters whenever there's Oyster Festival, and they are digital signs. So, again, I understand but that's distracted driving as well. If you want to say a digital billboard on the highway versus in town promoting Oyster Festival, no parking, this, that. So again, I am for this. I do feel we are limiting it to 6 billboards along the 95 corridor. I don't feel all billboards in the city of Milford are going to be changed. I'm in advertising. I get it. It's a static billboard actually draws more attention than a digital billboard does. So that's my feeling on it, and I will be voting for this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
This is going to be one more distraction on top of the cell phone, on top of the navigation system. So it's just going to add to the distractions, okay? And it will also open the door for a lot more billboards in the city of Milford.
Anyone else? Seeing none, if you would...
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Actually, I'm going to address this to David. Are we opening up to other billboards with this regulation change? I mean, I understand people can come before us, change regulations, but they have to come before us in order for us to change that. Am I correct in saying that?
Any regulation change has to come to this board. What will be interesting is, an applicant could come to you and say, well, you did it over here. Won't you let me do it over here? I mean, that's, again, and then it's up to you guys to decide.
But we have the right at that point in time to say no.
That's correct.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Meg, if you would call the roll.
Ms. Austin?
With the motion.
Mr. Cassidy?
No.
Is against the motion. Mr. Hirsch?
Against the motion.
Mr. Cater?
Against the motion.
Mr. Collegian?
I'm with the motion.
Mr. Moore,
With the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
I am against the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
Against the motion.
Mr. Zaharidis,
Against the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I'm with the motion.
Okay, the motion failed. The vote was 4 yeses and 6 noes.
Okay, that matter is closed. Next order of business is old business. Seeing none, we have liaison reports.
No liaison report for me, thank you.
Subcommittee reports, we do have a subcommittee next Wednesday for regulations, and with approval of the members of POCD, we will have a POCD meeting after the regulation subcommittee. Next order of business is approval of minutes. Do we have a motion? So moved. Without objection. Chair's report, a vote on whether to go back to remote meetings. I think after this vote, without any pandemic changes, I won't bring this up again, but I will bring it up tonight. And if we could have a motion to, or I'll make the motion, I move to resume remote meetings. We have a second. I think we all know what we want to say. We just have a vote. If you call the roll, please.
Ms. Austin,
Against the motion.
Mr. Casignoli. Yes. Mr. Hirsch,
Against the motion.
Mr. Cater,
Against the motion?
Mr. Collegian,
Against the motion.
Mr. Moore,
Against the motion.
Mr. Mortimer,
With the motion.
Mr. Sadi,
I'll vote this time with the motion.
Mr. Zaharidis,
I'm against the motion.
and Chairman Quish.
I am with the motion. It failed, and outside of a health concern that comes up, I will not include that in the chair's report. If again, until I hope it never doesn't change. But so that's that. Staff report.
Mr. Chair?
Chairman, several months ago, can I ask Dave a question? Several months ago, we hired a consultant to work on our POCD. Is anything going on there? We haven't heard anything for several months now.
Yes. I've been feeding them chapters from the book that have been rewritten. I've been slowly updating the current POCD because it was felt by the subcommittee that it was actually pretty good, but some of the information needed to be updated. So I've been working with a consultant who's also been working with our GIS people to update those materials. And it's being done in sections, and if we have our POCD meeting next week, as the chair would like to have after the regulations, I think I might be able to share with you, some of what we have.
Okay, so they've been working on this right along.
They've been working on this ever so slowly, all of us slowly right along, yes.
Okay.
And next meeting, we will put on the agenda the staff to give us an update. Thank you.
Mr. Quish?
Yep.
We're at staff report also? Is that where we are?
Next was the staff report.
I'll have a question then.
Staff report.
Nothing new this evening other than what was just discussed.
Thank you. First, I just want to comment about the civility of the members of the board in this vote. It's a difficult vote, and I appreciate everybody's comments, and thank you. But, David, very quickly approaching that January 1st, 2023 date for education, and I would suggest within the next month, we start trying to docket some ways of us to get our education. I'd rather not us be behind the ball. The point is we have to complete it by December 31st, but we have to get education pursuant to the new statute. So if we can get an update on that by the next meeting, I'd appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And so if you could make sure we put that on the agenda for our next meeting as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
after our vote to opt out of the new state law on residential zoning, is this now going to the Board of Aldermen, Dave?
The opt-out resolution by this board, that's what you did, you agreed to opt out, has been sent to the mayor and Board of Aldermen.
Chairman, question, the next PLCD meeting is Zoom, I assume? And
Yes, it is.
what day is it?
That'll be Wednesday, next Wednesday.
Thank you.
The staff will contact all the members to make sure that time works for them, and we can adjust if we have to.
Jim, can I ask a question? Can we expect this digital billboard to come up every year for like the next 30 years, or how's that working?
I will consult my crystal ball. I will consult my crystal ball, and I'll let you know.
Let's
Is there,
hope
like,
so.
It's
Is there some
actually
limit?
not funny, but yes, they can come, they can represent, they have a time frame, and they are allowed to present, so it's actually not something we should laugh at. It's a serious matter, and yes, they can.
Well, I thought I was under the impression if there's some changes made to, you can't keep reapproaching with the same stuff. Basically, I see very little difference from last time. If they want to
If-
change it,
If they can make the smallest a change,
well, that's what I'm asking. Is there?
Okay, what they're allowed to do is no sooner than 1 year, they can return with the same exact proposal. They can come in short of that year if it is substantially different. But if it's substantially the same, then they're limited to coming in once a year.
Go
I
ahead.
guess we can continue to vote no and stay behind the times as well. And so we can continue to vote no and stay behind the times as well.
What do you mean stay behind the times?
It was just a saying.
Motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
Okay. Without objection, we are adjourned.